Hi, Marquita Evans. Thanks so much for joining me on the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Danny.
Oh my gosh, I appreciate it because you're not just an agency owner with A-List Nanny Services. You're like an entrepreneur, like all over the place. And I think that that's like a great thing for our audience to just like hear about like how did you get into the nanny world?
Got into the nanny world. I feel like I've lived three lives, or I'm living three lives. My first world was preschool teacher, which went over to early childhood education and needed some extra money and hit Craigslist, for those who know what Craigslist is, to find nanny positions. And in there, it got me into a network where I started nannying for quite a few different families around Seattle. And the one that sparked A-List was one of my clients had someone coming in for a wedding from California, and they needed childcare. And I was like, "Oh, this kinda makes sense, event childcare." And then they had a friend also coming in, needed childcare as well. So then I hired my best friend to come work, and I took a cut of the pay for the referral fee. And that's where A-List started from, that quick little turn of events, and here we are, what is it, 16 years later.
Wow. Congratulations on 16 years.
Thank you.
I mean, like, I love that that's like how this even comes to be because I think there's something special or magical about when the opportunity comes to you, like you did something versus being like, I'm gonna start this and hit the ground running. There's like a magic to that where I think maybe people should like listen to like those signs maybe when that's happening.
I have to agree because it's literally my 3 main businesses. That's exactly what happened with each one. It was hearing those signs and following the signs as it's leading you into what's next. And so that's where it came. The second life was an accident opening a juice bar. The third life is now business coaching and small business development. And these are all things that were never the plan. It was just someone seeing that in me and igniting and moving forward with it.
Now I have to ask, and we've talked about this personally before, but for everybody else, how did somebody see in you a juice bar?
Well, I know that's funny because it was kind of a combination. I was working in healthcare and I loved that was the second, third life, whichever. I don't even know how to keep up with that part. But I was working in healthcare, working 12-hour shifts on a every other week rotation. And so you can imagine in 7 days I would complete 6 12-hour shifts. Working in the hospital, you're typically eating hospital food because during that time you don't have enough time to meal prep and things. And so my cousin gifted me my first juicer. Well, here I am now juicing and coming to work with my lunch bag full of mason jars. And then coworkers are like, let me try it. Let me try it. Then they're buying them from me. And so I'm at work at the hospital slanging juices out of mason jars, right? And juicing after I'm getting off of work, 7 to 7. It's crazy. Then I saw a post from a nurse I used to work with about anyone interested in opening a coffee shop. Here I am like, what about a juice and smoothie bar? And the location was 7 minutes away from home. And the process started. And here we are now, year 5 here.
Well, how did you like, how would you explain to somebody else if they were saying, like, Marquita, how do I take that leap of doing something that like I'm doing and then being like, I'm going to charge money for this? Like, even when you're like the slinging it with, to other nurses out of mason jars, like, how do you do that thing of being like, instead of just being like, yeah, let me give you a juice to being like, that costs $5, $10, something like that?
We'll say, and this is something I actually struggled with for a long time. To switch to the nanny service side, my clients had to force me to raise prices.
Mm.
We sometimes don't see the value in ourselves and other people see it in us. And then once we finally accept the value that we hold, then now we have a standard. And so people were like, here, I'll buy one. So it was like fine, $5 for an 8-ounce mason jar because we're paying for these things. And, especially when we have a good and kind heart, we're willing to just, here, Danny.
Mm.
And here I am every day giving you a juice while I'm buying produce, and these mason jars are not free as well. And I feel like it's learning to value what you're bringing, whether it's a product or a service, and appreciate yourself and realize that you hold value. So now I was that kid in school who talks too much in class. Well, guess what, Danny? I get paid to talk. And even when it came to that, someone set a value, which sometimes I thought was too high because it's hard to put a value on yourself. But now it's created a standard. So I know now anytime someone wants me to speak or talk or do something in that realm, I've had that standard placed for me. Now I don't feel uncomfortable adding a price, doing a price change and things like that because I see the value and others see it as well. But it starts with within yourself finding that value for you.
That's amazing, and I think that that's, like, really key, like, to, like, starting and moving forward with, like, your dreams or these things like that. That's amazing. Now I've kind of lost my train of thought on this.
No,
Th
I was gonna say it's hard sometimes. I think naturally as humans, especially if you want to be of service and help others, you don't want to place a monetary value on it. But then you also have to think about what is it costing you to provide this? And so, yeah, it's a nice little balance.
With, like, helping or, like, I suppose, like, starting the agency, where did you
Mhm.
start to see how you could help people there and, like, build up? Because if you go onto your website, you offer a lot of services. It's awesome.
So what I did, I specialize in event childcare. And what it was a huge piece of control. I cannot control what someone does in someone else's home. And that scared the crap out of me because hiring someone else to go in someone's home, what if they steal? What if this doesn't work? What if something happens to the children? It's a reflection of me, right? And so
Mhm.
if I specialize in event childcare, it was up until probably 10 years into A-List when I finally would not attend every event.
Wow.
I had control because I could go to every event. Whether I stay and participate the entire time or go sit in my car, I was there. So I had control over the outcome. And so when I finally switched over for nanny services, now this is more like just the date nights and things of that nature. It was adding people on my team who I already knew and who
Yeah.
had enough respect for me to not blow it for me, right? I had gone to a networking event and I absolutely hate networking events. This first one I had gone to, the one thing I took away from that is the one thing that changed my business. I was talking with someone and they were like, I was like, I can't hire people. It's hard to hire people. And they were like, well, what's the hard part? And I was like, nobody's me. And
Yeah.
he said, no one's ever going to be you. If you want to grow, you need to look for people who have those same qualities that you possess. And that's how you find your employees. And I walked away from that and I wrote down the qualities that I have and started to look for those qualities. So it wasn't looking for Marquita because guess what? No one can ever be her. But pulling out those qualities of loves children, enjoys extra work, wants to see these, and broke it all the way down to who I am and what makes me a great nanny or a great childcare provider. And when I interview and I'm talking to people, I'm looking for that aunt who has 20 nieces and nephews and she's the favorite. I'm looking for the favorite aunt. Haha, I might have to market that piece. I'm looking for the favorite aunt because that's the person who's gonna come in and love someone else's children the same way they do their nieces and nephews. Once I took that piece at hand, I was like, "Okay, I got this." So now here we are having on average 15 bookings a week now, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, "Okay, we're doing this." And I also found the niche of people who actually wanted providers that looked like their families. And
Yeah.
so That was a game changer as well. So now we're getting clients who are not from Seattle or Washington, who back home, their providers were Black. And I actually have Black nannies on hand. And so now they're able to feel a bit of home and their kids are able to feel that as well. So what I thought was going to be the hard part of an agency, an all Black agency, and it was all Black almost for a while, but now it was I found people who that's what they were looking for, and we were able to provide it. The nanny placement piece came because then those same people needed childcare more than just a date night or for game nights and things like that. We were able to start placing people. And even then, it was everything's been on the job training.
Yeah, with then placing people in, like, homes as, like, a permanent, like, nanny, how are you doing that thing where, like, maybe you're not just finding, like, the favorite aunt anymore, like, you're finding, like, a family's favorite aunt, I suppose? How are you figuring that out? What do you look for then?
It is on my intake sheet. It gives me enough information and trying to have that first time face to face to see what are the things that you care about the most. And so in my interviewing process, I'm looking for not just the A-list side of favorite aunt. I'm now looking at what my client is looking for specifically, and so I'm having to zone in and I have to get to know you a little bit more. What are the values that you hold most? And now look over here to make sure that that person aligns with what you're looking for. Just based off, I feel like our first interview is always my tester because I'm pretty good now at reading people and how they feel. And we do a debrief after every interview. And it
Yeah.
gets better each round. So it's like, what did you like? What did you dislike? What would you like to see? And hearing people, learning how to ask the right questions and basically creating that relationship. I have a few clients who have been repeats,
Yeah.
or one of my clients is like, I worked with you, I think it was like 5 years ago. And so she circled back around for us to come back again because now she needs help again. And so it's all in that relationship piece.
How do you do that thing of leading families through the process? Because when you said, like, your first interview, I was like, oh, yeah, like, how many interviews are you having with families to lead them through to make this seamless, to have, like, the great experience?
Yes, I will. So we start out with everything's online. And so I get to know you behind the scenes. Sometimes we'll have a conversation first. One thing I am implementing is a mandatory based video meet, right? I
Mhm.
used to do it in person before COVID. I used to come to your house and sit with you so I could have a view of what everything looks like and sit with you and talk with you and your partner, whatever that looks like, see your children interact and things and kind of grasp a feel of what a nanny is coming into.
Yeah.
After COVID, now we just do a face to face on computer, right? But in that first one, it's learning about you and have you gone through this process because 90% of the time my clients have already tried to find one on their own.
Oh,
It's
wow.
overwhelming. And I mean, I still even go through it. People will apply, will schedule meets, they cancel last minute. So here's my day, and I have an appointment or an interview scheduled, and now I have a couple gaps. It works perfect because I can continue the 20 tabs that are open on my computer now.
Yeah.
But
Totally.
it's for a family, that time is valuable. After we do that, I bring in at least 3 applicants that I feel like are going to best fit their family. After the first interview with the applicant, sometimes we do rapid. We might do 3 interviews in one evening with, like, a quick
Wow.
10-minute gap in between, because if I can get you all in this time frame, it makes it a little easier, so then you're not having to block off 3 different days for me. That first interview with an applicant, now you see what I'm looking for and what I'm bringing to you, and if it's not aligned, you're able to tell me what that piece looks like, and then we can reset and fix it for the next round. Or
Yeah.
we run through those 3 and they're all amazing and you're stuck figuring it out. And I'm like, in my mind, this is the person I would choose for you, but it's up to you. And sometimes it's even the guided where you know how you're guiding them to the right decision for their household because they don't get as much information as you do. You have to guide them into based on what your needs are, this person is probably best aligned. These guys are as well. However, I feel like this is going to be the perfect fit.
It might not be so apparent to a family that they might have gone through this process on their own, but maybe they've never hired a nanny. So, like, there's gaps in their knowledge of what makes a nanny really good. So they'd be like, but this person cooks really, really well. And you're like, yeah, that's only like a tiny piece of this. Like, you need them to do all these other things in between, figuring out what your family wants to eat or something like that. Like, I don't know, but like, you're filling in those gaps as you go.
Yes. And I mean, I feel like one of the things I'm realizing is we sometimes zone in on the little details versus seeing a big picture, right? And in it, I think I try to pass that same information on where we're looking for these qualities and values to be in alignment because everything else from there is simple. We
Mm,
can't adjust qualities or values, right?
wow.
But if we're able to get the qualities and the values aligned, hey, you may not be the best person to pick up toys, but I can teach you and create a system to make it a little bit easier for you. But I can't teach you to love kids. I can't teach you to squat down and make sure you're giving eye contact at their level. So if you can come in with and let's think about it. Do I want someone who can approach my child at their level or someone who can vacuum pretty lines in my floor? And
Pretty lines
and
is
the
important though for me. Like, no, but like not out. But so,
right,
but like that's so still amazing that like you're picking that out. I mean, like lines on the floor, like it's such a detailed small thing, you know?
and I love it. I had to and I'm one of those people, I am a constant reflector. And so I look at it as I'll never forget my, previous partner would clean my kitchen, just I'd still have a dish in the sink, the counters would still need to be wiped and things like that, right? Well, it drove me crazy until I thought about it on the flip side. Now, I don't have to do all of the dishes. I can just do these smaller tasks, but the big task is overall done. So now I can add my detail that needs to be handled without having to do all of the work. And so when we take that into being in the home, if I can look at the big picture as taking care of my child is loved, my child is being well cared for, not in a dirty diaper all day, the perfect interactions. However, those toys are still on the floor. Whew. Okay, which one would I prefer? Let me just it takes me 5 seconds to throw these things away. Instead of letting that one little detail ruin my day, I am so thankful that I did not have to take care of this child all day, and they had a good time with all those toys on that floor. So
Yeah.
changing the perspective, I think, ends up being where you're able to get what you need and find that balance.
It's amazing too because I feel like a lot of things get built onto like what you need your nanny to do, and it gets lost sometimes. And you like nannies have this like struggle of asking the families like, what is it you really need me to do? I feel like I hear nannies say like, I'm really here for the kids, but my attention is being drawn away to these other things that are not as important but helpful for you maybe like as like and like it's a whole balance. Is there something that you find that you're telling families again and again?
I'm sitting here, I'm like listening and ready to jump. No,
Ah,
I'm really, really big. I don't just work for my family, I also work for my providers. My nannies matter too. And so anytime I see this nice long list of would love a nanny who can cook and clean and tidy up and laundry and all of these things. I am really big on I let my clients know child related, child related. So when it comes to laundry, I've been a nanny before. Do you know how uncomfortable it is to have to fold someone else's husband's underwear? That is not
yeah,
my thing, you know?
I
And
I
then
personally
smile
do.
at this guy
Yeah,
later, you know?
having
So
also been a nanny, I get that. Yeah.
it's like, yes, I can move it to the dryer so I can do your child's laundry. Or the child had an accident, so I'm washing sheets, but I'm not washing the household sheets. Sometimes I think that's more of a house manager type of thing. And even with the house manager, they're not focused on the kids, they're focused on the house. And so I always let people know when I see those long list of things, a nanny's focus is your child and your child's safety and well-being. If I can appreciate a nanny who cleans up after their child. That's natural, should be part of your job. However, these extra duties that are not child related will not be the primary focus. It sounds like you also need a housekeeper, but I also understand if you have an infant and you have a nanny, there was definitely times when I would be bored. And so I would do things just to do them because I didn't have anything else to do. And I like to
Yeah.
keep it but as long as we're keeping it child-centered, it's realistic. And even have had to hire a nanny for myself, when I look at what my nanny is doing, I only want it to be focused around my child, you know? If I forgot a couple dishes in the sink, that's not your concern. That's a me thing, you know? One of the other things I will say I see families sometimes forget is when I had my nanny, I took a little bit of my preschool world into what I wanted my child to learn. And so I knew we couldn't rapid fire a 1, 2-year-old. So each month, let's focus on one topic. And these are the things I want focus on. So, however you see fit to make these things happen, 1 month was transportation. Hey, maybe we take a train or a bus. Hey, whenever you see cars, let's identify the colors and things of that nature. But I set a guideline. So you're not walking in blindly trying to guess what it is I want. And I also leave room for you to be creative and make it your own so that my child is getting what they need either way.
That's incredibly astute. That I love child-centered is realistic. I think that's, like, the game right there. Making sure that your providers are, like, equally cared for. Is there anything special that you feel like you do to make sure that you're cultivating that relationship with them or finding the right ones and all of that?
Think I'm very straightforward with it, especially in the once we hit second interview time, where it's like the family does want to proceed, I make sure I let them know I am always here as a liaison between both of you. Where if there's anything, because I have this way of communicating where it's not like, "You've messed up and done this." It's, "Hey, have you ever thought about doing this with this child? How's that going?" Or I send check-ins and things on both sides and make
Uh,
sure that I'm properly communicating between the 2 so that you don't feel like you're right, you're wrong, you're right, you're wrong. The center of it all is for the best of the child, right? That's who I continue to advocate for and make sure that both parties are doing their part to keep a happy space. And I think that because when you know that it's not just a one-sided, and I'm gonna be honest, I will fire a client.
yeah.
have. I have fired 2 clients, I think, so far, and 0 regrets, you know? I will step in to see what's going on. If a provider's like, "This is much," I will step in and come shadow to make sure and explore what's going on. I will change a provider, and sometimes it's you. And if it's you, guess what? We're not the right fit because I'm not gonna fuss at my child, and I'll tell you, this is a quick example. You do not want your child parked in front of a TV with the nanny there. When the nanny is not there, your child is parked in front of a TV.
Mhm.
So, okay, well, let's practice turning the TV off when you're there. We're gonna do that? They're gonna yell and scream. So you want your child to yell and scream with my provider instead? We can only do what you already do, you know? And so if you're not willing to make those changes and adjustments, I'm not going to fuss at my provider for a screaming child who only wants to watch TV, and that's what you've accustomed them to.
Yeah.
So that's that liaison piece where we can work together. If you don't want to work together, then we can't work together. you know,
I was just going to ask, like, how would families know that they're a good fit for your agency? How do what would make them what would make your agency really great for like a family to reach out to?
If you are overall looking for a great fit and willing to do the work as well, because we have to be responsive, especially I get a lot of people who want an emergency placement, right?
Mm.
Like the need is now. And if I can't get a hold of you or get scheduled with you, I can't meet that need. I am a solution-based person, which is why it's A-List Nanny Services, your childcare solution. I try to find solutions, however, you have to help me be part of the solution. You know, we have to do our parts together. This is what I can deliver, but this is what I need from you as well. I need to have communication. I need you to make this a priority also. And I need you to be flexible in this because if you need an urgent request and I think I've come across the perfect nanny or I already have it in my team, if you can't get me in until Friday the 18th, but you needed a nanny on the 14th, I can't do my job. And so
Yeah,
as long as you're solution based, just know that I'm here to be the solution.
that's
And I think
amazing.
that sums that piece up. I mean, we got to work together to get what you need.
Yeah. That and, like, is there a way that you're like, putting those information up front for people when you're, like, talking to them or, like, how to slow down, like, that emergency situation, or how does that work?
I always over prepare in a sense where it's like, now I might be able to get someone in your house tomorrow,
Wow.
not for a permanent placement, but just for someone from our team to come in until we get that perfect person. I'm always like, placements take minimum 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Have they happened in less than 24 hours? Yes.
Wow.
Where I just in that meet, I know someone who is currently available. They live close to you and we can make this happen. But also on that side, it's like we have to be working together. But if I say 2 weeks at minimum, when we get to 10 days, you're not like, "Oh my gosh, it has not been 14 days yet." And I'm really good at communicating because I wanna make sure that you know where we are, what we're looking like, and I also make sure you know, like, I get these text messages, "You have had X amount of applicants. This last placement, 60 applicants, and
Wow.
you've only seen 4 of them," right? So that just shows you that I have gone through 56 people and decided these 4 are coming to you a value of what you need and what you want. And so being very communicative, I think, is a really big one for me.
Well, Marquita, you're fantastic. It's been wonderful speaking with you. Where can people go to learn more about you or coaching services and A-List Nanny Services?
So alistnannyservices.com and A-List Nanny Services on social media. MarquitaEvans.com will be live here at the end of the month. And that will show you pretty much everything Marquita. That will show you the nanny service. That will show you the juice bar. That will show you the consulting and coaching pieces and everything that I've accomplished in podcasts or speaking engagements and things, just so when people learn or if you come to me for the nanny service, you see that, wait, there's these options as well. And you never know what someone needs. So, yes, that will be live soon.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time with us, your expertise, and I love it. I think we'll need to have you back again soon.
Yes, thank you so much, Danny. I enjoyed it.